you're wondering what the heck is going on in Calgary's real estate market, well, you've come to the right video, because in this video, we're going to go over all of the data that we have available to us. And really, in short, if you're a seller, your time is up. You've missed the boat, you've missed the opportunity. And if you're a buyer now, you have opportunity. And I truly believe there's only more opportunity ahead. And I say all this because when we look at the data, it is shocking how similar it is to last year and the year before. And it does the exact same thing every single year, more or less. And so with that type of information, with most certainty, we know exactly what's going to happen here in November and December and going into the winter months here. So if that's you and you want to know what's going on, stick around. And at the end, I'm going to show you this fancy tool that I've been using for quite some time now. It blows me away how accurate it is. And then at the very end, I'm going to give you my 2 cents on what I think if you're thinking about buying or selling and just what to do in this market. And so the first thing I want to show you is the home prices. Now, just to back up a little bit here, this is all residential. All residential. So the next couple of graphs here that I'm going to show you is to do with all residential properties: detached, semi, row, and attached. Now, later on in the video, I'm going to show you exactly each segment. So if you're curious on what segment, maybe you're selling or purchasing in a segment, I'm going to give you more detail into those, so don't worry about that. But here's the home prices, all residential home prices. And as you can see here, the blue graph here, or blue line, sorry, is 2025. 2024 is the black graph. We've seen some substantial growth last year, and it's just been a sliding scale. Basically, from last year of June, we saw a little bit of an uptick beginning of this year. But more importantly, what's happening right now is prices are just continuing to slide downwards. We can see from the last 3 months window here, August, September, and October, is that prices are continuing to slide downwards, which leads me to my next graph here, which is new listings, right? We see that this blue graph and black graph basically mirrored each other. Now, obviously, it was a little higher in the beginning of the last year or beginning of this year, but it's almost identical. You can almost can't even see where the two lines are because they overlap so well. And so when it comes to new listings here, right, this fall activity just happened. And now we're staring down November and December when really the new listings here is going to just plummet dramatically, which leads into sales, right? So again, I've been talking about this before, that September, October are the 2 months that sales tend to increase before we start slowing down, before we get into winter, when nobody wants to really do anything. And so here we are, we've hit October, we've seen the increase, which mirrors exactly what's going to happen. So with most certainty, we're going to see less sales come in November, less sales in December. And so just keep that in mind if you're thinking about buying or selling here in the next, I don't know, couple months or in the beginning of next year even. And then when we look at inventory, it doesn't follow it to a T. Obviously, when we're looking at compared to last year, we still have a substantial amount of inventory than we did last year. And it's interesting because September was kind of when the inventory peaked. And then October, inventory is coming down. And so just to recap a little bit here, when we go back to home prices, they're continuing to go downwards. New listings, they're starting to go down. And then total sales will most likely go down. And total inventory, well, that's on a decline as well. So that's what I mean. It's like time is up now. You've had your opportunity if you're a seller for better conditions. And now it's time for the buyers to really take advantage of what's happening here in the real estate market. And so now I wanted to get just more specific into each of the segments that's happening here. And so the first one what I want to start off with is the residential detached. So again, the blue bar here is this year, black bar being last year. So as we can see here, the detached market had a crazy increase last year, and it really was this across the board. We saw all segments have some substantial growth in the beginning of 2024, but now we are seeing that growth diminish. How far it's going to go down, nobody truly knows. But all we do know here is that prices have been continuing to slide ever since March. And then when we look more granularly here, sales are actually increased last year, and we've seen that where there's the uptick in sales. And so that's natural to happen this time of year. And so if we look at all of the graphs we've just looked at, we're looking at this graph, we're most likely going to see prices continue to decline here. And what's interesting is when you look at August, September, October, every single month in the last 3 months, or really in the last, 6, 7 months, is every month the prices have gone down about $5,000. So every month you have your house in the market and it's not selling, it's costing you $5,000, which Doesn't seem much, but when your house has been on the market for 3 months, that's $15,000. So this is where the advice that I have for you sellers a little bit later in the video is going to be crucial, because you just don't want to be that person who's been on the market for a long period of time and just it's not selling. So stay tuned to the end there. And so the next one here is semi-detached market here. And it's kind of a similar story where things are just following the same trend of last year. Obviously, the beginning of the year was quite a bit different when it comes to just home prices, but now we're basically mirroring the last year's home prices, which is a little bit higher. But as you can see here, October, September, August, prices are continuing to go down. Sales have actually increased a little bit, which was similar to the detached market, which is kind of normal, right? Because October and September, we do see more activity when it comes to sales, not necessarily prices, but sales. And then active listings, it's been slightly increased as well, which again, new listings tend to come up a little bit here around this time of year. So if I were to guess, similar to the detached market, we're going to see a slight decrease going into the winter months here, and nothing too out of the ordinary in my opinion. And then we have the row homes here, which is interesting because when we're looking at the blue graph here, we're basically losing almost all of last year's gain. Though when we compare it to the semi-detached and detached, we quite haven't lost this much of its gain when compared to last year. And so again, same thing going on here, October, September, August, prices are declining. In this case, you know, it's about $2 grand and then about $5 grand. So it's about $3 grand every single month that you're losing per month by not selling your property here. Or if you're thinking about buying, well, you're gaining about a $3,000 every month you wait, which is something that I might advise you if you're a buyer. But again, we're going to get into more of that a little bit later here when I have more words for you if you're a buyer. And so the next segment here I want to talk about is just the condo market. And as you can see here, prices are continuing to slide downwards. It's really one of the sadder segments or just parts of the market, because you've lost all of last year's gain. You see where last year started at, you know, 324,000, just, you know, the average price here. And now we're sitting at 18,000 as far as the average price goes. So we've lost all of last year's gain, and it's most likely going to continue here going into November and December. So it's not looking good if you're a seller in the condo market. So before we get into checking out that tool and then just my 2 cents if you're a buyer or seller, I just want to briefly touch on what the board is saying here. And so pace of new listings growth slows, preventing further inventory gains. So there's less new listings hitting the market. Well, I guess we're seeing that after that we've had that initial uptick, and now, yes, basically things are slowing down. So inventory levels eased over the last month, thanks to the combined impact of monthly pullback of new listings and a monthly pickup of sales. I guess that's one way to look at it. The inventory and sales, the October months of supply returned to 3.5 months after pushing up to 4 months in September. While both row and apartment style properties continue to report elevated supply levels compared to demand, conditions remain relatively balanced for both detached and semi-detached properties. That's questionable. Year-to-date sales in the city totaled just over 20,000, down nearly 16% compared to last year, but still in line with the longer-term trends. Much of the decline in sales has been driven by pullback for apartment and row style homes. Improved rental supply and easy rents have slowed ownership demand for apartment and row style homes. Now, that's happening pretty much everywhere where the rental market is slowing down quite a bit. There's not quite the demand. You know, we think about population, we think about workforce. It's kind of what comes to mind when we think about, you know, the need for rental supply. It is also these segments of the market that have seen October inventories reach a record high for the month. Excess supply for apartment and row style home properties is weighing on prices in those segments. So again, the apartment one were below where we were last year as far as prices, and the row style we're getting closer. So it's definitely impacting those ones the most, more than any other property type, influencing total residential prices. As of October, the total unadjusted residential benchmark price in Calgary was $568, down nearly 1% compared to last month and over 4% lower than last year's levels. The largest price adjustment occurred for row and apartment style properties, where prices have eased by the respective 6 and 7% compared to last October. Now, a lot of this I would agree with. There's some spots where, you know, I don't know, when I do market reports, like it's every board, they just cherry pick the data in such a way where it makes it seem optimistic. But overall, like all segments are hurting, all segments are, their prices are reducing. So it truly is becoming more and more of a buyer's market. Now we've gone over a lot of information here, and as I mentioned earlier in the video and just alluded to a couple of times throughout the video, is this: what does this mean for you? And so if you're buying in 2025, I got some words of advice and hopefully wisdom for you, is that you're going to have less choices come the winter. Now I say all this in light of the fact that we do have inventory at an all-time high. But the problem is a lot of that inventory has been on the market for a while, and chances are you've probably looked at it and you're like, well, I'm not buying those ones because either A, they're overpriced, or B, they're not going to be a good fit. And I'm sure there's some other reasons, but you're going to have less choices, less new listings hit the market. So just keep that in mind when you're out looking at places. And then activity decreases in the fall, and it kind of pairs with what I just said, is that nobody wants to buy or sell or move, more or less, in Calgary in the dead of winter. Like, it's just not many people are big fans of it. And so that's what I'm just going to say here, is activity decreases during the fall. Now, it doesn't mean there couldn't be some opportunities out there because of that, because no one else is buying. If a house comes on the market and that you really like, well, there's a good chance you could get that property, and maybe even for a good deal as well. Now, the next thing here, prices are trending downwards, and so can you wait? As we've seen there, every month in the detached market, it was like $5,000 is coming off, the average or the medium home price. So the longer you wait, the more, in theory, you're going to get off of your property. It's just how it's working in as far as the numbers go. So, maybe you buy right now because there's less activity out there. There's less buyers you're competing with. And so if you find a property that you like, it might be worth trying to pull the trigger. But at the same time, when you look at where graphs are going and all the projections are going, it's going downwards. And so if you wait a couple months, well, you could save yourself 20 grand, 30 grand, depending on what segment you're in. And so it's just something to think about. And then the last one there is just, it's still important to get pre-approved. I'll say this till the day I die. It's just, you want to have all your numbers and facts and just what you can actually afford, not just like a pre-approval off some online website that literally all it takes is your income and, maybe your email. You want to have factual, information so that you can trust that number and go confidently looking at properties. Because the last thing you want to do is go through all this work and just your financing doesn't pull through. It's not ideal. And so now if you're selling in 2025, you got a couple months left, what should you do? And so the first thing I would say is you need to price it right from the start. The last thing you want to do is test the market in this market, or test the house price in this market, because we've seen it. Prices have continued to decline here over month. And so the last thing you want to do is price your home a little bit higher, hoping to try the market. And then you fast forward a month and now you want to decrease, or now you agree to decrease your property. But then the analogy that I actually is probably better to use is that you've priced your home here, the market's here. Now, after a month, you're like, okay, let's reduce our price. But the market's down here now, $5,000 less. And so you literally just chase the market down when really you should have just, priced it at the market or maybe slightly below, because every month the market's going down. So to actually be where the market, shoot where the puck's, or what does it say? Skate where the puck's going to be, not where the puck is. And so that's what I would encourage you to do when you're thinking about pricing your home right from the start. And so the next one is making your home stand out. As we've seen, inventory is still high. It's not the highest it's ever been, but it's high. And so I say this because you are going up a whole bunch of other competitions within your neighborhood, within the city. And so you need to make your home stand out. And the easiest thing is just, what I would say is just, you got to fix what's broken. People don't want to walk into your home and the knob is, loose, or the door, doesn't shut properly, or the window's got a crack in the window, or who knows what it could be. There's a long laundry list of things. You got a bunch of, nicks in the paint. You want people to walk in and it's just wow, okay, I do not need to do anything moving into this home because you are against a lot of competition out there. And then what I would say is be ready for less activity, right? If your home didn't sell in the last month or two, well, that was technically your best chance in this last quarter here, because that's when activity increases. Buyers are out there. They just don't want to wait till winter. And so they try and find properties now so they can avoid all of that. And so you're going to have less activity. So any activity you do have, and if you're wanting to sell this year, I would take it seriously. Now, if you're not wanting to sell this year and you want to see what happens, again, nobody has a crystal ball. So do what you like. But as we see here, prices are continuing to slide downwards as we go on here. And then the next one here, which kind of plays into exactly what I all just said here, is you need to stay flexible on your terms. I don't want you to get hung up that the days are off a little bit because, you couldn't get your days when that's the only offer you have, especially if you're wanting to sell this year. If you're not, then, wait until the market becomes more in your favor, or wait for more buyers to come out too, because that's the thing as well. I think that most sellers, maybe you realize it, maybe you don't, is that there's new buyers coming to the market every month, right? And so just because your home didn't sell this month, there might be a new buyer that comes that might be interested in your home. But all I'm saying is that when they do come to your home, be flexible on those terms, because you may have to be, because that's just what's required right now. So keep that in mind. And the last one here is just know your reason for selling. There's no point going through all of this. I was going to say pain, but it's not always pain. Go through all this stuff, not for your home to sell. Now, if things change and your plans change and you don't want to sell your home anymore, that's fine. But what I don't want to happen is just you go through all this stuff only for you to pull your house off the market, or get frustrated and just want to try again next year, because it's a frustrating time for you right now. Let's just call what it is. Buyers have the upper hand right now. So I always just say, know your reason is selling, because it's going to be tested. That's for sure. Now, before we get into this tool that I want to show you, is that, do you think I'm way out to lunch here? Like, if you were a buyer or a seller, like, what are you seeing out there? Or what are you experiencing, I should say, in this real estate market right now? And then if there's anything you want to see or want me to put into these market updates, they're for you. So let me know if you want any changes happening as well. And so this is the tool that I was talking about that I wanted to show you just how it works, because it's pretty slick. And what it is a home evaluation tool. It's zero conversation home evaluation. So literally, you scan this QR code, you put your address in, or put in an MLS that you're thinking about purchasing, and it literally spits you out a number in a matter of seconds. And so what I want to do here is just quickly scan this QR code. So it's going to bring up this, what's my home worth? Get your home value in 10 seconds, really. And so what I want to do here is just load up MLS here. That's what I got loaded up here. Literally just pick a property here, load it up. Yeah, so let's just copy this address here, and then we'll put it into here. Paste. Should load up here. That's the one. Email address, phone number, name. Send it. So here we go. We instantly got the home evaluation here for $589,500. Let's just see how that compares. It's about $15,000 difference. And so I was curious how many days it's been on the market for. 40 days. So this tool is very accurate. And so what I would do is just go check it out, try it yourself, see how it works. If you're thinking about selling your property, you can just get an idea of what your home would sell for in today's market. Or if you're curious on like what an active listing should sell for as a buyer, feel free to use it as well. All I'm going to say is full transparency. I do get your information. It's going to be myself or someone from my team here will reach out to you and just see if you need any help. And if you don't, it's more than okay. We'll go our own way. But if you do need some help on just, your unique situation, because again, all this content that I've come out with here is generic advice. For you, it may be different. So if you need some help, we'll help you. If you don't, we'll go on our way. And so if you want to stay up to date on what's happening here in Calgary's real estate market, don't forget to like and subscribe so the algorithm just sends you more of my content. But if you are curious on what the costs are in purchasing a home or owning a home, I'm going to link this video right here. It literally goes into detail, and I actually built a fancy calculator for that one as well. Just another tool that I have in my tool bag, and it's super handy just to figure out what the cost is selling a home, buying a home, owning a home, because the last thing you want is any surprises. So go watch that video right there. But as always, I appreciate you watching, sticking around with me, and I'll see you in the next one.